So my name is Anna, and I decided to start this channel to help raise awareness for fibromyalgia. I've had fibromyalgia for 20 plus years. I'm only 34. And so I just kind of wanted to start out by sharing my story, and I just hope that by sharing these videos with you, I can make others aware of the condition and what somebody that has it is going through, and for those that do have it, maybe not feel so alone, because I know I've felt alone for many years. So my story started towards the end of 1999. I was 13 to somewhere between the end of 1999 to the beginning of 2000. So I was between the age of 13 and 14. I have things written down here, so if you see me looking down, that's why. I just want to make sure I get things in order and I don't forget things. So the symptoms that started were just muscle pain. Like it was mostly my back. My back constantly hurt all the time. Tylenol didn't help. Went to the doctor, and they first said that, maybe I did something in gym, or I was fairly active at the time. We lived in Missouri, and in a very country, rural area, so I hiked a lot. I went cliff jumping off, the bluffs into the lake. We did all kinds of stuff. So I was very active. They thought maybe I just sprained muscle or, something like that. But it didn't go away. It progressively got worse. It went from just the pain in my back to, muscle spasms, and I started having my hands and my feet would swell. And I don't mean just a little, I mean they looked like balloons. I guess that the correct term is edema, filled with fluid or whatever. The doctor, the first time it happened, I went in, my mom took me in the emergency room, and the doctor said he'd never seen anything like it, because it was just one hand. He said he would see, some people would come in where both hands and both feet would swell. Mine was just one at a time. I rarely ever have both at the same time. It's usually just one. Let's see. So after that, I went to see my primary, of course, again, and he decided to send me to specialists. I had so many different blood tests, and I saw so many different specialists. I can't even name all of them. I know I was tested for Lyme disease, again, because we lived in a rural area and there was ticks, and I had been bitten by ticks several times. That came back negative. I was also tested for lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. The one thing with the rheumatoid arthritis, the RA factor in my blood, it does fluctuate. Last time I had it tested, it was at a 14. And so that shows inflammation in the blood. So anyways, back to, I'm getting off topic here. So that continued on. No specialist could tell me what was wrong with me. They would tell me, oh, well, they would ask my mom questions like, well, does she do things like this? Does she try to get attention? I even had one doctor tell me, because at one point I'm very petite, I'm 5 foot. I've always been very tiny. I had one doctor tell me I was top heavy, that my chest was too big for my size. I was a large C. And at that time I was about 116 pounds. That wasn't it. He was just, it was just excuses. Anyways, so in 2002, we moved from Missouri to California, which is where I'm originally from, which is where I live now. Sorry, backtrack a little bit. They had put me on anti-inflammatories and painkillers and stuff like that, and they would make it bearable, but you know, nothing really made a big difference. I couldn't play PE. I couldn't do the things that I normally did. So back to 2002. I went off of those medications because we moved, insurance changed. I didn't have insurance for a while, that type of thing. I started self-medicating. I started smoking weed, which I'm not advocating for, but it does have its medical benefits. Back then it was illegal, but it was the only thing that seemed to help. I, you know, was in so much pain. I didn't have an appetite. I couldn't function. Again, I'm not advocating for self-medication, or, you know, self-medicating, excuse me, but that's what I did. Let's see. Saw more specialists. Nothing, no answers. I started having female issues. Did have a cancer scare. Turned out it's fine. I became pregnant in 2003 with my beautiful daughter. And I was working at that point. I had a job. I ended up having to quit my job because I couldn't, I was put on bed rest, let's put it that way. My pain was increasing, the swelling was worse. It was, you know, once or twice a month instead of, you know, once or twice every 3-4 months. I also developed gestational diabetes. Again, still no diagnosis for what was going on with me. I obviously could not use marijuana then. The only medication they could give me was a muscle relaxant that didn't really help all that much. I had my daughter in 2004, and after that I had a very not traumatic, but very scary delivery, and maybe I'll do another video on that later. After that, I could not, my body had gotten so bad, went through so much, that I was not able to hold down a full-time job anymore. Believe me, I tried. I was not able to work for full-time. I lived with my mom at the time, so thankfully she helped me a lot with my daughter. A big blessing there, because I don't think I would have been able to do it on my own. 2009, I decided, you know what, I'm done with this. I need answers. This is not in my head. This has not been going on, you know, at that time for almost 10 years. It wasn't in my head. I knew it wasn't in my head. I was then diagnosed with scoliosis. And my curve is about here on my spine, and it's a C curve, so it's about like that. I then went and saw a spine specialist because, you know, my hips and my knees, like I said, were hurting, and there was times where I wasn't able to walk on my own because I couldn't put pressure. The spine specialist told me that it was not, my scoliosis was not the cause of my hip or knee pain, because my hips were parallel. There's, you know, sometimes with the curvature of the spine, it can, you know, tilt one way or the other, and then that can cause excessive pain. That wasn't my case. I got married in 2010, I believe. My husband, my now ex-husband, he had really good insurance. I decided to see, we lived in San Diego. I decided to go see one of the top rheumatologists in California. And he's the one that diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. I went in there and I told him, you know, my story, and I said, you know what, can we just start from scratch? Because I don't remember what tests I've had. I want to start over. You know, I want to go back through something. Like, something has to be wrong with me. I get that some people, you know, want attention, and so they crave attention, and so they make up things in their head. But this was not the case for me. That doctor I only saw once, and I would never recommend him to another fibro patient ever. His exact words to me were, there was no blood test done, he didn't examine me, nothing. He looked at pictures of, you know, my hands and my feet swelling, because anytime something like that happened, I would always take a picture, so doctors would know what I was talking about. His exact words to me were, if I have to have a name for what I have, that I have fibromyalgia. But that he wouldn't tell anybody that if he were me. Would not tell anybody that. Because doctors use that term too loosely. And told me to go back to my primary care doctor for treatment. At the time, I didn't know anything about fibromyalgia, or, you know, what treatments were out there, or medications, or who, you know, what doctor you're supposed to see for it. So I did what he said. I went back to my primary care doctor, who then put me on antidepressants. The first one, I'm not going to say names because medications work differently for everyone, so there's no point in that. I'm going to put a trigger warning right here, for self-harm. So if you're triggered by talking about, you know, hearing things about that, please click off this video. Don't watch anymore. Or at least fast forward for a good minute or two. I became very depressed on this medication. If it hadn't been for my daughter, I would have committed suicide. I used to self-harm for other reasons. I was a cutter for a few years. Again, another video, another time. I stopped doing that, and if it weren't for my daughter, I would have gone back to that. I probably would have ended my life. My husband at the time noticed a major change in my personality and you know, my behavior. So we went back to the doctor, and they switched medications. Neither one helped with the pain. Just being honest, neither one helped with the pain. The second one made me pretty much numb. I was never overly sad. I was never overly happy. But again, neither one helped with the pain. But I took them because that's what my ex-husband encouraged me to do, and what the doctors were encouraging me to do at the time. In 2012, the end of 2000, mid to end of 2012, I left my husband. I went off the medication. Other than the pain, emotionally, I felt way better. 2013 to 2014, I found a good rheumatologist, because obviously I switched. I was no longer living in San Diego. I had a different primary care doctor. He referred me to an amazing rheumatologist. I've been put on a painkiller, a muscle relaxant. I also take Cymbalta, which I know can be used for antidepressant, but that's not why I take it. It does help manage my pain. And I'm also on a sleep aid. Let's see. I also moved to where I'm living now to take care of my grandmother, who I absolutely love. It was not easy, again, because I have not been able to work a full-time job. I had worked, side jobs off and on since I had my daughter. Ones where I could make my own hours and, work every week, maybe once a week, that type of thing. Let's see. My grandmother passed away in 2005. I still live in the same house. My dad and his wife live here. We live here with my daughter. My now husband moved in I don't remember what year he moved in here. We got married in 2018. I am still currently seeing the same rheumatologist, who, again, I think is amazing. I have recently started using CBD and medical marijuana. Again, thankfully it's legal now. If it wasn't, I would not be doing it with my daughter here. I don't think that's right. That's just my opinion. And it helps. It makes life manageable. Let's put it that way, because in all honesty, fibromyalgia is a bitch. Okay? Sorry, but it is. You never know what you're going to wake up to. You never know, minute to minute, really, what your body is going to feel like and what it's going to do. I can wake up, with very manageable pain and maybe not even have to take a pain pill in the morning. And the second I get up and start doing something, that's it. Game's over. Other days, I wake up in excruciating pain. I'm talking, I'd rather be in labor again kind of pain. And I was in labor with my daughter for 22 hours. I would rather go through that again than the pain that I wake up to some mornings. It's a very difficult, I don't want to say disease, it's a very difficult condition. There's no blood test for it. They do what's called like an acupressure test, where they push on like certain parts of your body, and if you have so many out of the 10, if you have pain, and I believe it's 7 or 8 out of the 10, then they'll die, and everything else, all the other blood work has come back normal, then they, diagnose you with it. I went so many years feeling like everything was all in my head, and I had many people, including, significant others, tell me to get over it and just deal with it and be an adult, and so many things that it's just not fair. You never know what somebody's feeling and you should never judge anybody. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to add. That's pretty much the end of my story for now. I'm happily married. I have a 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old daughter. My husband is amazing, and I know I get on his nerves sometimes, and this condition can be very frustrating and very trying on relationships, not just marriages or, you know, romantic relationships, but relationships with friends. I've lost a lot of friends over it, but I've also gained some very, very amazing friends. So I hope that somebody can relate to my story and just know that you're not alone, and it's not in your head. And I believe you. Yeah, so I will be posting more videos like this, I guess, but also just videos about my life, things that are going on in my life. I also love makeup and crafts and cooking and stuff like that, so maybe I'll put in some of those, maybe some tutorials or things like that too. And if you have any questions for me, you can always email me if you want to talk or whatever. I'll try to put my email on the screen here. It's MySpoonsN, as in Nancy, me, at gmail.com. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope I helped somebody.